JayDreamerZ welcomes you to the live stream.
Hey, what's up everybody? Hopefully my microphone's on. I'd like to jump right into it. I know that sometimes my live streams can take a minute to actually begin. What are we talking about today? We're talking about royalty and purple. So I'm going to jump right into it. Let me bring up the chat so I can keep an eye on questions and comments and all that great stuff. Welcome, by the way. Shibby McGee says, we can hear you, Jay. All right, cool. Thanks, Shibby. All right, so you'll notice off to the side over here, I have this sort of a photo gallery. It's set to randomize. I didn't have time to put the photos in like the orders that I wanted them to be in. So I might stop from time to time during my discourse to basically point out something in the photo because that's just how I am. Anyway, welcome to everybody, and I just wanted to let you all know tonight I will be talking about and presenting the color purple. But not just the color purple. Why is purple so significant to our world leaders, to royalty, and to the people who are basically in charge of us? Why do they use it? What is it symbolic of? You know, where does it come from? And you may notice I put some notes up here on the board there. You can probably see if I move it over a little bit. Or about the purple dawn. We'll be talking about that. We're going to be talking about conditioning, questioning our cosmology, and we're going to be talking about our beloved sun, right? And the Silica Age, or what has been dubbed the Silica Age, or the Avatar world. Now, a lot of the pictures I put over here are going to be for like an Avatar look to them, and there's a very important reason to that. So, for those of you who are brand new, who have never tuned in, watched, listened to this channel before, some of this stuff might not make sense immediately because I'm basically building upon and expounding upon prior discussions. Things that I've already studied and shared in other videos. So I might hit the cliff notes. I might reference some of my other videos. Please feel free to check it out. Most all of the content that I'm going to be talking about tonight is from my playlist called Ancient Oblivion. So please do check that out. I will also be writing a book in the future, probably with the same title. So, with that being said, hello to everybody in the chat. Just a quick hello to those who showed up first. Shibby McGee, North Nottingham Paranormal Investigation, Candy Jones, Awareness, Judith Baz, Bible Book Club, Free Thought EMF, Dude's Daily Drink, and Holly Deer. What's up to everybody? And all of you who are not in the chat. Thank you so much for your time. So, I know you're waiting for some actual information. Let's start talking about it. Now, how many people went to your grade school or your grammar school, and some point in the process they started telling you about why the royals wear purple? You may have forgotten, or maybe they didn't condition you the way that they normally do. But in my school, I was taught that the reason why purple is associated with royalty is pretty much because, and this is true if you Google it as well, right? I spend a lot of time Googling this question. Why do royals wear purple? You know, what's significant about purple and our world leaders, okay? So Google and my grammar teachers, my school teachers, all pretty much agree and have the same story that the color purple is significant for the rich or the ruling class because purple was really hard to come by a long time ago, right? It sounds so ridiculous whenever we've grown up a little bit, whenever we've grown past these concepts that have been taught to us when we were younger, right? Okay, so anyways, purple was in short supply a long time ago. And the reasoning behind this, and you might see a picture of it pop up sometime during my chat, is the main dye came from like the Morocco area, and there were and are these snails with these little cool shells, and the snails produce a minuscule amount of drool That's basically, oh, there it is right there. It's purple colored. You can kind of see there's a string of purple on there. Anyhow, they say that they collected hundreds and thousands of these things, and it was so rare that, to make the dye out of this purple spit from this snail, it was just a ridiculously long process, right? But people wanted their purple. So only the rich could, it's so ridiculous when I repeat it. Only the rich could afford purple because, so much time and energy and money went into making purple and, sucking out the snail spit or whatever. It was a lengthy process and it was hard to come by. So that is what the mainstream idea on where purple comes from. I'm going to disagree with that. And I'm going to give you my esoteric insight on why purple is actually important and why it's related to the royals and what it is symbolic of. So, our conditioning. We are taught purple comes from the spit of millions of snails collected out of, the seas over in the Mediterranean or Morocco area. And therefore, only the rich could afford to wear purple. And, if you Google it, you'll hear information like, they outlawed wearing purple because it made you seem like you were a rich person or whatever. Okay? So, let's move on from the conditioning to something slightly different. I'm going to talk about two things that sound unrelated, but they're going to merge. Okay? So, stay with me. Now, our cosmology has recently come into question. Many people are looking into alternatives to the narrative that we are taught in our school system, our conditioning that we are given and that is forced upon us. So lots of people around the world, and I'm not just talking about flat earthers, I'm just talking about awakened minds, people who are waking up and challenging mainstream ideas and asking questions and putting their own clues together and following their very own trail of breadcrumbs. I'm not saying they're all right, but what I am saying, Bible Book Club, thank you very much for your donation. That's awesome. Everything's going towards new computer and book. Just want to put that out there. Anyways, so you guys caught me off guard. Thank you. Anyway, what is my point? My point was conditioning, right? There are people waking up all over the place. And as a part of that, we're questioning the reality with which we are presented. We're asking ourselves, is it real because someone else insisted that it was real? Or is it real because I have walked that path and I have found evidence and I've weighed it out for myself and I've come to a conclusion that this evidence weighs more than this evidence over here. And so I lean more towards this idea or this concept on life and the world around me. So, as a part of that, something interesting, I did a video called Arcadian Sky. Arcadian Sky talks all about the time before the moon. And it's not some conspiratorial weirdos on YouTube and Facebook and other platforms saying that the moon once did not exist and beings lived here under a moonless sky. No. This was talked about by those fathers of our academic process, the people whose shoulders we stand upon to found our school system or our conditioning system that we send our children off to for way too many years today. Those people, and I named them, some of them, in the video Arcadian Sky, those people all said there was a time that existed before the moon. And it's not talking about, mainstream science saying that, this is millions and billions of years ago, when the earth was a molten lava and there was no moon. That's not what these people are referring to. They're talking about recent history when there were beings on this world that walked under a sky that had no moon. Now, I understand that the world we live in today, we pick and choose, Those who rule over us, sometimes they glorify certain individuals, and sometimes they say, oh, well, that was back when, civilizations were not as advanced, and they were cavemen, and they didn't understand or whatnot. However, we can't replicate their pyramids, and we can't build the things or understand the concepts that they presented back then. So anyways, there's a little element of hypocrisy there, okay? Anyhow, my point is, these men described a time before there was a moon. They brought into question, I mean, for them it wasn't really a question. For them it was common knowledge. There was a time before the moon existed. They knew it. They knew that there were cultures that pre-existed our culture today that walked under a moonless sky. And because they wrote about it, that means they brought our cosmology under question. They questioned the narrative as it exists today. Because as it exists today, the moon's always been around, and there were no people around back in the early stages of the earth, and the moon was sucked in, or all of this stuff about the moon. They brought into question our cosmology. Now, later on, in modern times, there was a man, and I referred to him often as of late, named Immanuel Velikovsky. Immanuel Velikovsky wrote a few controversial books questioning or daring to question our cosmology. Now, Velikovsky was not some tinfoil hat wearing lunatic who was just insane and out of his mind. No, he was an extremely educated man who went through the normal school system and rubbed elbows with some of the most prolific names of the 20th century, right? Like Einstein and Freud and a whole list of others, right? He actually founded a school system of his own. However, my point is, Velikovsky wrote books that questioned cosmology, or if you don't know what cosmology means, it just means the study of what's up in the sky or space, right? What is above us? And he theorized that there were he theorized that what we call planets that are so far away out in space today, that there was a time that they were very nearby. And in his books, he gave the hypothesis based on his own gathering of information and studies of ancient scriptures and writings, and what's known also as comparative mythology. Comparative mythology is a wonderful tool for us to use today because throughout all of our cultures around the realm, right? We've all have written records. We all have myths and legends and stories and holy books and whatnot. So comparative mythology puts all of that information and it selects those things that are very similar or the same. And it puts them together and it puts them all off into a little side category. And it says, wow, this is the same, this is the same. Let's put it over here, because maybe it's the same because there's some evidence there. There's some truth going on there when we compare these legends and stories and fairy tales and scriptures and religious historical records and all of these things, right? Comparative mythology it's not biased. It doesn't say, I believe in this, and so it has to fit this storyline. Comparative mythology says, I'm open to it all. I'm going to put all of the related pieces together, and I'm going to make a picture out of it that makes more sense than the collective amount of fractured images that I see. I'm going to make a picture out of it. That's something that I try to do on my channel and in my real life, my daily life. I put these things together, and I think this is a great tool for us to use as we move forward. I know I will be. Anyhow, moving right along, we question our cosmology. If there was a time before the moon existed, right? We have to ask, what are the implications of that? That means there were, what was in the sky? I mean, is the sun up for questioning? That's something we'll get into a little later on, our beloved sun. How about the other planets, or what we call planets, those other lights in the sky? Do they have to be what we think of them today as just being fixed and that small and that far away and they can never be bigger? Velikovsky's idea was that they were much bigger in our past, that those planets, those lights in the sky, they're literally skylights, just like the sun, just like the moon. Those lights, called planets in our sky, they were much closer at some point in time. Okay, so when early man, we'll call him early man, okay, but a long time ago, when the inhabitants of this realm looked up into the sky, perhaps what they saw was altogether different, right? And think about this, right? If our lights in the sky put off two totally different lights, which they are, the moon is its own light. This has been proven, okay? But feel free to go research it, okay? The moon gives off its own light. It's a sort of cold light. It's a sort of dull kind of light, okay? It's altogether different than the sunlight. We can agree on that, right? The sun puts off a unique spectrum of light. It's this blinding white light. Now, I'm speaking from my own experience, okay? And I believe that there are reasons for that, which I'll get into when we talk about our beloved sun. But what if what we call planets, those other lights in the sky, what if they were much closer? What kind of a light would they give off? Now, I highly encourage everyone to go check out and research something called the Purple Dawn theory. I don't know if it's a theory or what. I call it the Purple Dawn theory, right? Now, this theory puts together a lot of various information. It uses comparative mythology and some of Velikovsky's writings and a lot of other people as well. But basically, it says that in ancient cultures, we've been conditioned on television and documentaries and all of this that man has always worshipped the sun, right? That blinding white light in the sky that we see today. That's what they drew images of, right? The problem with that is, how do you draw a picture of the sun today? If you ask a child, hey, draw a picture of the sun, right? This is how they would draw a picture of the sun. We'll try to draw just to the right of this dude's face over here. Actually, let me just go ahead and erase this. This is how we draw the sun, right? We draw a circle, and then we draw rays of light coming out of it, because it's blinding white light shooting out of the sun. Now, I know many of you are still enamored with the sun. That's okay. I don't judge you or anything, okay? But that's how we draw the sun. That's how a child would draw the sun. We know to draw the sun in this way. But ancient beings who were here long before we were and left hieroglyphs and pictures for us symbolized their sun like this. Okay? Well, it's actually one line, okay? But I'm just trying to make it big so everybody can see it, okay? Anyhow, that's how they drew their sun. That's literally the symbol for our sun in today's astrology. Man, I totally lost the chat. I'm so sorry. Let me bring the chat up real quick. I'm so sorry. I was just getting into it, Anyhow, this is how we draw the sun. Now, why would we draw our skylight that we encounter every day? It's responsible for our day. Why would we draw it like that, right? Who has ever looked up at the sun through any type of mechanism and seen that? That's a strange thing to be a symbol of our sun, our skylight that we venerate and worship and adore so much, right? I don't think ancient man was drawing a picture of our skylight today. As a matter of fact, the golden age of the gods, the El, or the Elu, or the Elva, the elven race, right? Legends and myths using comparative mythology, they all reference the time, the golden age, right? It's a time known as the golden age, when everything was just great, when the gods ruled and walked the earth, right? That was the age of Saturn. Now, I don't want all of the Saturn conspiracy people to just go, oh my God, he's satanic, he's talking about Saturn or whatever, okay? Let's separate ourselves from the emotion of it all and just piece it together. This is Saturn. This is the eye of Saturn with the ring around it, okay? Or the all-seeing eye, if you want to call it that. Anyhow, this was the time in which Saturn, not our sun, dominated our sky. It gave off its own glow. It's known as, or was known as, the black sun. Saturn, the black sun. This is why all of the cults and secret societies that worship Saturn wear black. It's so funny. Every single time I have ever mentioned that, I just happen to be wearing all black when I say that. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe not. But anyhow, that's why they all wear black. Black represents the color of the black sun, the black god in the sky, the black light, if you will. The gigantic black light, black sun in the skylight that was not a piercing, bright, white light like it is today, but a glowing black light named Saturn. Now, I don't know if it was exactly a black light. I'm going to try to line it up. I don't know if it was exactly like this. However, that is the theory behind Purple Dawn theory, right? That our world was ruled over. Our sky was ruled over. The main skylight was Saturn. Now, perhaps the other planets were up there as well, shining off various alternative lights or colors in our sky. And maybe instead of something like this, where we pretty much get one blanket of piercing white light, and yes, we can still see color under it, but if you've ever seen the movie Avatar, and there's a lot of other great examples out there, right? It seems like their whole world just glows. A lot like if it was under one of these. If you've ever been under a black light, the colors are so much more vibrant, right? Everything is sort of neon and glowing. And anything that is white sort of turns blue underneath a black light. Try it sometime. Put on a white t-shirt and step under a black light, and your white t-shirt will look Smurf blue. Now, I did a whole video on the blue gods and why many of the ancient gods are depicted as being these blue beings, which actually sort of contradicts a lot of the other myths and legends that say that they were more of a pasty, like white albino type color. Not that they were albinos with red eyes and whatnot, but just a very pale white color. You know, the color of my white board in contrast to my Caucasian arm, okay? So, anyhow, should these beings have been that type of white under a black sun like Saturn, they would have ended up looking a lot like this guy right here. These were the gods of old. These were the El, or the Elu, or the Elohim, or the Al, or Allah, or Elbin race of beings, otherwise known as gods. Now, these gods were the ones that these ancient academics spoke of who lived during the time when there was no moon in the sky, okay? They lived in a place called Arcadia. They lived in paradise. They lived in Eden when the earth was altogether different. This realm was a paradise. It was not cut down and terraformed and destroyed yet. It did happen throughout the process and throughout the lives of people like this guy right here. However, our world was vastly different. If you watch movies like Avatar, Candy Jones, I see your comment. Tell you what, let me finish this thought and then I'm going to come right back to your comment. If you watch movies like, Avatar and many of these types of fantasy worlds, you'll notice that the plant life is just huge. Actually, in the movie Avatar, they have these gigantic trees that just shoot up into the sky. And this brings us to another theory. It's known as the no forests on flat earth theory. If you're not into flat earth, you can just say the no forest theory. This basically says that In this time of the purple dawn, in the golden age of man, when we lived in Eden, in paradise, and we walked among and with the gods, and maybe titans as well, that there were these gigantic pillars that reached up into the heavens, that shot down from the earth all the way up into the sky and disappeared into some other world. This was a remnant of the silica age that we live in today. We call them giant trees, even though I don't know if tree is a good word, because I don't see a lot of evidence that there were definitely branches. I don't know. I do see evidence that there was some sort of gigantic silica pillars that shot up into the sky, like a beanstalk, like Jack and the Beanstalk, who climbed his magical pillar to reach the land of the giants, right? So, anyhow, I promised I'd get back to a comment. Let me get back to that comment. If you guys type in at JayDreamerZ, then it actually highlights it so I can pick up on it. And Candy says, did you read the book of Enoch? Yes, I did. Many times. The part where they talk about the planets. Yes, I did. I also find it very interesting the part where Noah is born and how they describe Noah as looking just like this guy without the black light shining all over him, right? Or just like those beings, those aliens, or those El Elyon in the movie Prometheus. Exactly like that. Great question. Okay, so anyways, moving forward, let's talk about our beloved sun, right? Our beloved blinding white light. I know many people today love this thing in the sky. They love it. Why? Well, because we're used to it. I mean, when we're used to something, we tend to hold on to it. It's our way. It's something we're comfortable with, you know? It's something that we can recognize and know where we are and what's going on and whatnot, right? But the time has come in this age that we live in, during this time of enlightenment and self-awakening. Because I think that's really what it's about. It's about people who are waking up on their own. They're coming to their own realizations about the world that they live in and who they are inside and what does it mean for them going forward, and where did they come from, and what are the origins of things. People are finding this out on their own without having to watch YouTube videos or turn on their daily news, which is ridiculous. Anyhow, our beloved sun. It is our beloved. It is called the sun for a reason. It's the S-O-N. I'm going to write it down because this is actually very important. The S-O-N versus the S-U-N. Can you see that? Good. Exact same word. There is no difference. There is no such thing as a S-U-N. It's the same thing. S-O-N, S-U-N. Actually, the further back in time you go, and I mention this a lot because I like etymology or the study of words and their origins, the further back you go, there are no vowels. Vowels don't exist. Vowels are fictional. They're made up. There's no such thing as a vowel. Vowels were created because certain clans, certain sections of beings that walked this realm, they wanted to keep their language pure so that they could continue to communicate with one another. So they forced people how to talk by introducing A, E, I, O, U in between the hard consonants, or really in between the pictures that actually represent something, okay? Vowels do not exist. I mean, they exist in our world today, but there was a time when men didn't have vowels, right? There was one vowel. It was ah. That was basically it. There was ways to say ah based on how you moved your tongue and your dialect and your accent and where you were from, you know, and that broke down one language into many other languages today. So people introduced vowels in order to try to save their languages. Now, excuse me, Let me jump in the chat because I did see a comment by somebody. Oh, Never Ending Adventures TV and Vlog says, at JayDreamerZ, when do you plan to go to the North Pole? I want to come with. I live in India. Great question. I'll be happy to answer that another time. No offense, but go ahead and write me an email, jaydreamers@protonmail.com, and I'll be sure to talk to you about it. I'm glad that you're interested. So let's move on. Our beloved sun. It's our son. It's our child. It is literally the offspring of something much bigger, right? If there was a time before the moon, that means that the moon was introduced. It was produced. It was created by something. And I have my own ideas as to who or what that may have been. But what if the sun is also an offspring of something, the creation, the production, the product of something bigger, right? Or at least something bigger than we are today, right? We can't just go make a sun. I know they want to real bad, but right now we can't just create a sun, right? And just stick it in the sky. So, our beloved sun, we love it. We are enamored with the sun. There are people that go out and stare at the sun. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make it look ridiculous, okay? But think about this. People go out and stare at the light in the sky. I understand. This is what people have told me, and I've looked into it. You know, you just feel energized. You get the sun's energy and its rays, and they go into you, etc., etc. I know some of you are going to be like, oh, I'm done listening. I love the sun. That's fine. It's okay. But what if the reason why sun gazing is so good for you and you feel so good afterwards is because the ultraviolet light, hits your skin and produces vitamin D in abundance. And so you get this boost of vitamins and you feel energized and you feel good. What if we had an alternative light source back then that produced a violet light or an ultraviolet light and gave people even more of that type of vitamin necessary? Now, of course, that's just one avenue that I'm going down. I speculate, I guess, I put little tiny pieces together, and I guess. It's an educated guess, but it's also a guess from my gut, from my instincts. It's my intuition balanced with my experience and information that I've come across, okay? So, you don't have to agree, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying here's an alternative idea, right? But we love the sun. We don't want anything to happen to the sun. You know, we are taught that if anything happened to the sun, oh, we need the sun for life on this planet. Chris Hancock says, hello, human. Hello back. Anyhow, we're taught that we need the sun. Oh, we have to have the sun for life to exist, for life to continue. People say, what about photosynthesis? Oh my God. Yes, I understand. We all love that bright light in the sky. Except for me. Except for JayDreamerZ. Now, I appreciate it. I'm glad that I have light to go about, you know. However, when the sun's gone, I can see just fine still. Okay? It's not like I'm just blind and I can't see anywhere. The sun's gone. It's nighttime. Oh, I can't see anything. Right? We can have alternative light sources in our sky. Right? They can give us altogether different effects. Now, anyone who's studied astrology knows that those astronomical lights in the sky literally have an impact on us here in the world, and our emotions and our energy and our likes and dislikes and our skills and, you know, things that we lack in and things that we excel in. It's called astrology. It's the effect of these skylights and their effects on us. So, does the sun, right? Does the sun affect us? What is its effect on us? Does the moon affect us? I think we all can agree. Even if you don't believe in anything I've ever said, I think that we can all agree that the moon has a definite effect on people. The moon is one of the lights in the sky today. It has a very strong effect on people. Ask anybody who works in an emergency room if they think the moon has an effect on people. They will agree. So let's just say that there were, at some point in our recent but hidden and esoteric past, what if there were alternative lights in our sky? Or what if the planets were all together closer? What kind of an effect would that have on those down below? And why? That's the other question. Why was the sun introduced? The sun is known through myths and legends and using comparative mythology. The sun is known to turn beings to stone. The sun and its light is known to fight off evil, to ward off the bad guys. Well, who are the bad guys? What does our collective subconscious say that the bad guys are? Well, there's only two classes of beings, in my opinion, that have existed before us. Two main classes. You have your El, or your God race, your Elven race, your Elohim, your angelic race, if you will, okay? And then you have your Titan, or giant race. And they ward with one another, right? Now, typically, the Titan race is painted as the bad guys, and we ward them off with the light, right? And the Elven race are depicted as the good guys. Now, I don't agree with that. I think that there are both on both sides. And I think that ancient history agrees with that. And all of our myths and legends also agree with that there are good and bad on both sides. But ultimately, we call good, we're selfish as humans, right? Humans are selfish. Humans are babies. Humans are immature and don't understand things. So we call good whatever supports our cause, right? Whatever supports us and our continuing existence and giving us stuff, right? We call those the good guys. And the bad guys are anyone who says, nah, I don't know about that. And I'm not taking sides either. I'm just trying to think a little more critically and balance it out with my intuitive and imaginative side. So, anyhow, we're in love with the sun. We're in love with the moon. You know, we're also taught if the moon were ever gone, if anything happened to the moon, life on this planet, there'd be chaos and, you know, there'd be death. We need those lights in the sky. I disagree. I suggest that we do not need the sun. We have grown accustomed to the sun. We understand how to live life under the sun, but there may have been alternative light sources in the sky. The main one in our past ruled over the sky during the Golden Age, and that was Saturn, the black sun, or the black light sun, right? That gave off a sort of blue glow, giving us an avatar-like world. All right, I'm going to jump in the chat real quick. The Heliocentric Destroyer says, keep up the good work, brother. Thank you. And Joey wants to play, says, JayDreamerZ, are we then dwarves? Humans? As in Norse tales? Yes, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Especially the whole, you know, dwarves, elves, humans, and these different classes or races of beings. I do talk about that in depth in some of my other videos, so I encourage you to check those out. Oh, last thing I want to talk about. What is this world that pre-existed ours? What happened, you know? Why don't we see it today? Well, I believe that we do see remnants of that world. Personally, I think that that world, for the most part, was turned into stone and drowned, which brought us into a new age, the age of man, where humans now, I don't want to say we rule, but we definitely outnumber the more ancient beings that came before us, right? We auto-populate, right? Like, oh, anyways. So, hey, somebody in the future, when I start talking about elves, please remind me to tell you my joke about Zelda or Link, okay? It's very funny. But I'm not going to tell it now, so tune in. Anyhow, this ancient blue light, or black light, known as Saturn, once ruled the sky according to comparative mythology, according to people like Immanuel Velikovsky, and according to many of our ancient depictions of the sun in the sky, of the main light source in the sky. It gave off this avatar-like purple glow. And I believe that that is exactly why the elite, the elite, the elven race, the god race, those who are in charge of the world today. I'm not saying that the president and the queen are gods. However, I do think that they understand who they may be related to, who or what their DNA may be connected to. Maybe not fully 100% this guy, but maybe they've got some in there. And maybe they want to keep that DNA strand pure. And maybe they understand that their lineage traces back to the elven race, the god race, if you will. Those who came before us and ruled over us. Now, they only ruled over us for a certain amount of time. Now, I believe that they were elven, not elves like they're depicted today. But for more information on how the elves are real and they're actually the gods of old, please see some of my other videos. I highly recommend starting off with JayDreamerZ Presents The Secret of the Elves. I break it down. I get into the etymology of the origin of the word and its similarities. Okay, it's very, very good video that I did about elves and the gods. So, that being said, the ruling class of the world today seems to think that they're directly related to the gods who are in charge. And so they have this sense of pride, right? Well, because they are related to this ancient golden age, this purple age, where there was this god in the sky, this gigantic light in the sky named Saturn, much bigger than our sun today, supposedly. And they worship Saturn. They wear the color of Saturn. They are Saturnian, however you say it. And I think, a lot of people have gone down the conspiracy wormhole or rabbit hole. You've come across Saturn symbolism and Saturn and the occult, okay? They give reverence to not only Saturn, but the age of Saturn, the golden age in which Saturn gave off its black light, or really its purple light, or it turned other things a sort of bluish color. It's ultraviolet light that Saturn gave. And they give homage to this. They wear that color purple and they don it. Get it? Purple dawn? No, I'm sorry. No more jokes. But they dress in the color purple to venerate that time, to say, I am related to that. That's my heritage. I'm from the Purple Dawn time frame. I'm related to those beings that walked the earth during the Purple Dawn, during the time of my god, Saturn, the time and the age of the alternative light sources that once ruled over us in the sky today and gave our world an entirely different spectrum of colors. That are represented in movies like Avatar, or most recently in Star Trek Discovery. If you've seen, man, I forgot what it's called. It's got a Latin name, but it's episode number 8. Highly recommend checking that one out. So anyhow, the ruling class of the world, they know where they're from, unlike many of you. You don't know where you're from. You don't know where you came from or how you got here. And I'm not saying all of you. I'm just saying many of you. Much of the world today is lost. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they came from or where they began or what their purpose is or how they got to where they are, let alone where they're going to be in the future. But the ruling class suppress this knowledge and keep it to themselves. And they have a sense of pride that wells up inside of them. They share these symbols with one another so that they can say, you're on the same team as me. Good for you. And anyways, it's a sense of pride. It pays homage to that time frame. Purple just happens to be one of their symbols. Do I think that they wear purple because it was just really rare? No, because then they'd wear gold or diamond color, or there's all kinds of rare things in the world today. I don't think that they wore purple because they wanted the loogies from some snail in some lake in Morocco because it was just it was hard to come by. And so they're like, oh, I've got something that's hard to come by. Now, finally, I just want to mention this. That dye, okay, it's called, I believe it's called Tyrian Purple, right? From the place called Tyre. That dye, if you study it, it wasn't even purple for the most part. It's not purple like you see, above me up here. It's not that color of purple. Sometimes it would turn out that way, but it was twice dyed, and it was more about the texture of the dye and how it looked when it was put onto clothing and textiles. It actually, when it was perfect, it was said to look like congealed blood. Now, congealed blood is not this beautiful purple color that we see today. Okay, it's more of a dark brown, gross, reddish kind of color, okay? So, that part is not true, okay? They didn't take all these snails to make this beautiful purple color that you see in the rainbow today. They made all these snails and they produced this sort of metallic, shiny, strange texture, and it was more about the texture and how it shined under the light of our beloved sun. And it was more about that than the actual color on the spectrum. It was less purple, and it was more of this bloody, brownish, reddish color, okay? And that's something that you can Google, and you can check it out. If you don't believe me, that's totally fine. But ask yourself this. If purple was so rare, why didn't they just put blue and red together and make their own purple, right? Oh, it's imitation purple. Oh, you mixed it together. Oh, that's not as good. Give me a break, okay? There's more to the story. It doesn't make sense the way that we are conditioned to believe the way that things have happened throughout history, especially when you start questioning the people that rule over us and what their symbols are and what they believe in and what they do and where they come from. Like, they don't want you to go anywhere near their backstory. So they cover it up. They say, oh, it's the spit and loogies from these snails on the lake, and it's just really hard to come by. So, yeah, we wore it because it was really expensive stuff. So, come on, man. I don't believe that, okay? I believe in something more spectacular, something more amazing, something that takes pieces of history, breadcrumbs, around our realm, and we put them together and we come up with an idea. See how I did that? We come up with our own idea, right? And we come up with a much better picture and a much better story than the one that's been given to us. You all will agree, if you're still watching, this world sucks. This world's boring. The way that we've been conditioned to see it, it sucks. The way that we have been told and instructed that this is the world you live in and you can't change it, and this is the way that it is and it's never been different, that sucks. But you know what's exciting? Doing your own research, allowing your mind to expand and coming up with new thoughts and theories and ideas that are grounded in reasoning and logic, imagination and intuition, as well as intelligence. Let's try to be well-rounded and grounded, and I think that we can put this story together ourselves. Anyway, this is JayDreamerZ, and thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm not going to do question and answers tonight. I'll save that for another time. I might just do an entire question and answer segment. Next Monday, I will be talking about the real esoteric origins and symbolism of the Christmas tree. And I'll give you a hint. It's very similar to tonight's chat. Anyways, you guys have a great night. Enjoy, your holiday or, whatever you want to do. Eating your birds and stuff. You guys have a great time. Thank you so much. Please leave your comments. And if you have any pictures, videos, links, or any other additional information, go to the Facebook page, the Facebook group that I've created called JayDreamerZ Ancient Oblivion Archive, and please post on the archive. You just have to answer a simple question. Why do you want to join? I'll read your answer, make sure that you're accepted into the group. Just don't want a bunch of trolls and stuff running around posting stupid stuff. And feel free to post as much as you can so that we can archive these things for everybody. And I might use them as well on my channel. If you want to write to me, go ahead and write JayDreamerZ@protonmail.com. Please keep your emails short. I do want to give a special shout out to a man named Tate. Tate, if you're watching, thank you very much for all of your wonderful investigation, experience, and information that you're sharing with me. I also want to thank some of the other people, some of my supporters who have helped to get me to where I am today, or at least helped to get this channel to where it is today, and hopefully helping to continue the growth of my channel so that I can continue to do stuff like this and make it better and really just perfect, the things that I talk about and the way that I present it, and even more than that. Those people deserve a special shout out. First and foremost, Jace, my beloved son, and Darian, my special daughter. I love you both. You're both amazing. I also want to shout out my supporters, Edward, Harmony D, and Subphotonic. Thank you so very much. I appreciate all of your support, as well as, Bible Book Club earlier in the super chat donated $2 to the channel. So thank you all so very much. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me on Skype, using JayDreamerZ, or Facebook Messenger as well. Please don't get upset if I can't respond to you right away. I do try to respond to as many people as I possibly can, but I look forward to talking more with you all next week. Enjoy the rest of your night, and thank you so much for your time.